Good morning, I'm Lauren Rose, and I will be providing an overview of the juvenile justice legislative landscape for this session. Please note that some of the bills on the following slides will be clumped together to save space. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are identical bills, they just seek the same outcome. At Texans Care for Children, we include school discipline with juvenile justice because we understand that school's disciplinary action in pushing kids out of the classroom often later leads to student involvement in the juvenile justice system. This first set of bills addresses standards in increasing opportunities for students in disciplinary settings outside of the classroom, including changing the age at which a student can be removed from the classroom and placed in a disciplinary alternative education program, or a DAEP, from 5 to 6 years old, which, if you think about it, is actually still pretty young for removing a student from the classroom for minor misbehavior. Also included are proposals that would require structured courses for students placed in DAEPs for a semester or more, and also requiring the Texas Education Agency to set minimum standards for education in school suspension settings. Also included in the school discipline bills is a proposal that would increase schools' opportunities to have students removed from the school bus or from the classroom for misbehavior that occurs on the school bus. Recently, schools have become more and more reliant on police officers to handle school discipline and minor misbehavior in the classroom. This often lands youth in adult courtrooms. Specifically, House Bill 3001 seeks to adjust the role of police on campus so that police would be focused on law enforcement and not on additional duties as assigned. There are also 2 bills that focus on youth-specific training for police officers who work in schools. Currently, most school police have no training to deal with the children that they come in contact with every day. Also, you will see that there are a couple of bills that would actually create new types of police officers that are in schools. And with school police come criminal citations written to students for misbehavior in the classroom, which, again, sends students into the courtroom. The Texas Judicial Council Juvenile Justice Study Group made many legislative recommendations to address the number of citations that were written in schools for minor misbehavior. All of the bills that you see here include these recommendations to varying degrees. Some of the bills may include one small recommendation of the council, while others include nearly the full package, or even go beyond the recommendations to reduce ticketing even further. These recommendations include requiring that schools, instead of writing a quick citation to a student, that they file paperwork with the court. This additional time and work will likely cause second thought on the need to involve this youth with the justice system. Also included is a requirement that schools must take specific steps to address problems before a citation can be issued to begin with. There are also multiple bills that address truancy or failure to attend school, which is often also addressed with criminal citations. These proposals range from increasing the age at which a student can be ticketed for not attending school from 18 to 21, which would actually eliminate one of the reforms put in place last session to require schools to take, there's a proposal that would require schools to take additional steps before a citation can be issued to a student, and then also removing the option to write a citation to a parent when a student has had too many excused absences. And then here you see a large number of bills that have been filed relating to school accountability, specifically regarding school disciplinary practices. Data shows that youth of color or students in special education are disproportionately disciplined in Texas schools, even though they don't act out at greater degrees or with more severity. Senate Bill 420 would require the Texas Education Agency to require schools that disproportionately discipline students to create and implement a remediation plan. In addition, many other bills on this slide provide the agency authority to require schools to address the agency's concerns regarding disproportionate disciplinary action, suspension of an excessive number of students, or suspensions issued that last for an excessive amount of time. A number of these bills also require increased data collection or data reporting from schools around different disciplinary actions, including House Bill 2221 and House Bill 918, that would require data collection and reporting on the criminal citations that are written in schools, and which does not currently have data readily available. Data on criminal citations would allow for schools and parents to see how this practice compares from their school to other districts, as well as provide a better sense of the role that the police are currently playing in our schools. There are also a couple of bills that would make a few changes to procedures within the juvenile court system, and then a few more that would seek to increase fines and fees for youth involved in the juvenile court system. Even though we know that most youth involved in the juvenile justice system come from families that cannot afford the fines, and then also the fact that children generally do not have a way to pay for these fees and fines on their own. However, Senate Bill 395 and House Bill 3059 recognize that fact and require a judge to allow a youth to pay the fine, paid installments, or perform community service specifically for citations that we were talking about earlier. However, Senate Bill 395 has a committee substitute that would allow the judge to decide if the youth should have that option. Senate Bill 511 and House Bill 1388 are bills to watch. They would allow local juvenile probation departments who operate secure facilities to commit a youth who would normally be committed to a state-run secure facility to their own facility. Youth committed to state-run facilities often have substantially longer sentences than youth who are kept in juvenile probation facilities. At the same time, they are often in need of more intensive programming than counties generally do not provide. And finally, the bills do not include the same basic standards, oversight, or protections for youth at the county level that are in place to protect youth at state-run facilities. Here are a few bills that look at different opportunities for addressing misbehavior and delinquent conduct in the community, which include increased family involvement, mediation and restitution with the victims and the juvenile, and then also allowing counties to create first offender programs that would allow youth to not have records for their first nonviolent offenses. And then this last bill increases the time required for community service for youth adjudicated for a graffiti offense. There are also a good number of bills looking to increase accountability and improve conditions for youth held in facilities at the local and state level in both the juvenile and adult systems, including increased access for the independent ombudsman into facilities that hold youth to continue to ensure that youth are safe and not held in confinement or not held in confinement for extended periods of time. There's also legislation that would work to ensure that youth have access to appropriate educational opportunities. Here you will find a slew of bills filed to help youth who have turned their lives around and be able to have their records sealed or have access to their records restricted so that their youthful indiscretions do not haunt them as they start applying for college and jobs or finding places to live. The bills take into account levels of offense, which is why you see so many options. When two youth who both believe that they are in a consensual relationship, but one is charged for being in that consensual relationship, we often call these Romeo and Juliet cases. These bills look to create additional defenses and change who can be charged when both youth consider the relationship consensual, so that the one charged isn't impacted by the relationship for the rest of their lives. There are also a number of bills concerning youth in the adult justice system. The big one here that I would like to point out is House Bill 3634 that would create a task force of stakeholders to look at the feasibility of raising the age at which a youth is considered an adult. Raising the age would put youth who commit offenses when they're 17-year-olds into the juvenile justice system. Right now they would be considered an adult. Doing this would allow that youth additional access to rehabilitative and programming and services that they wouldn't receive in the adult system. House Bill 2241 would allow judges to keep youth who are in state secure facilities longer in those facilities if it is determined available programming would be beneficial to the youth and safety of the community and would keep that youth from being transferred to an adult prison later on. There are also a number of bills that seek to ensure the safety of youth in adult facilities. While one, House Bill 529, would require a youth transferred to adult court be held in a juvenile facility where they would have access to education and be safer while awaiting trial. However, another, Senate Bill 1839, would eliminate some of the safeguards in place to ensure youth safety if they are awaiting trial in an adult jail. And finally, we are following the sunset bill for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice to ensure that changes do not increase the number of youth in the adult system or negatively impact youth already in that system. The Supreme Court recently ruled it unconstitutional to have mandatory life without parole sentences for youth under the age of 18. Instead, judges and juries must take into account the youth's age and factors related to that youth's age when they are sentencing that youth. A few sessions ago, Texas already prohibited life without parole for youth, instead mandating a life sentence, but not allowing for sentencers to factor in that youth's age. Multiple bills have been filed this session in response to that Supreme Court decision. However, only one would bring state statute into compliance with the Supreme Court. As well, Senate Bill 1428 would retroactively change the life without parole sentences for the 20 or so offenders serving life without parole that were sentenced before the Texas law was changed. And finally, here are a few more bills that don't neatly fall into categories. House Bill 2399 would require the Texas Juvenile Justice Department prepare a report on moving forward the agency goals laid out in the reform legislation and last session.